Hello and welcome to today's Partner Infopedia web conference. This is the Office 365 U.S. Partner Community Call for January of 2015. Presenting with us today, we have Michael Pansaroli, who is a National Partner Technology Strategist for Office 365 at Microsoft. And we also have Vijay Kumar, who is a Senior Product Manager for Office 365 at Microsoft as well. And now, without any further delay, it is my pleasure to hand you over to our first speaker. Michael, you now have the floor.
Thanks, Deb, and Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome to the January call. And just a very brief agenda here. So we have a one-slide welcome from our community. And then we're very happy to have Vijay Kumar, a Senior Product Manager at Microsoft, give the main content today. So Vijay is a very sought-after speaker, and he presents at our conferences, both internally and externally, including Tech Ed, so we're very happy to have him today. And then we're going to leave a couple of minutes for Q&A as well. And so just a welcome to our community, and here are a couple of ways you can be able to get engaged. We have some shortcut URLs for you. We put out a newsletter about every month, and you can see that day in the AKMS, the Joint Office 365 newsletter. You can get updates on the service, and we let you know about any training that's available, and also any announcements or upcoming events. So it's a great way to be able to stay in touch. And also, this is your community, and so we encourage you to join the Office 365 group on Yammer. That's part of the U.S. partner community, so we encourage you to sign up for that. Another great way to stay in touch. And also, finally, you can see our posts. So as you know, we focus around monthly themes on our blog and on our calls. This month's theme is security and compliance, and next month's theme, we're going to take a look at OneDrive for Business. And so you can stay up to date on all those by taking a look at the AKMS US blog. And then finally, our monthly calls. And so, as I mentioned, we switched over to a monthly sign-up, and so you can sign up for the rest of the series in this call with that URL, US Office 365 Partner Community Series. Note there's no underscore on that community series. So sign up there, and next month's call will be around OneDrive for Business. And we're also going to take probably about 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to have Jenny Woodbury who's a product marketing manager for MOD, and she's going to talk about the Skype for Business launch. So we had a call last month that centered around Link Voice. Was very popular, and so she's going to give a roadmap update on Skype for Business, where partners can go to get more information, and also some Q&A. All right, so without any further ado, we're going to move on, and I'm going to turn this over to Vijay Kumar. And thanks, Vijay, and you now have the floor.
Thank you, Michael. Let me take over as a presenter in a moment, and then I'll start my talk here. Great. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Vijay Kumar. I'm a Senior Product Manager for Office 365. I'm really excited to talk to you today. Thank you for the opportunity. We have a really good story with security and compliance that I would like to share with you. And some of you that have been dabbling with Office 365 for a while now may be aware of a lot of these things, but it's worth repeating for those that have become partners recently, or you may not be familiar with the story, or just repeating the story itself. We also have some exciting things happening, additional things happening in the partner space, where we are working on an initiative to reach out to ISVs to work with them to extend our solutions, Office 365 itself to partner ISV space, if you will. And I don't have any slides on that today. That program we just started working on it, and feel free to reach out to me because I would really be happy to talk to you guys at that point. Michael, can you hear me? I think there are a couple of people that are having issues.
I can hear you just fine, Vijay.
Yep,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Excellent. So with that, I'll go ahead and start off. When we talk about security, privacy, compliance, we think about we put it under the bucket of trust. So basically, what we mean by that is we've done extensive customer research over the last couple of years, and talking to a number of customers. What it boils down to is for customers to trust the cloud services provider. For decades, they have had their data, their services, and everything hosted on premises in their own environments, managed and operated by the people that they have hired. And now there is a paradigm shift when there's a mindset shift when they have to put all of these workloads that they have come to trust for productivity into the cloud and trust as cloud services provider. And there is a small leap of faith that they have to go through. And when we double click on that, what that boils down to is three things: security, compliance, and privacy. Of course, there are things like reliability, performance, and things of that nature, and those are technology aspects, and we know how to do that, and we've done that for years now, and they have confidence that we'll get that. But when it comes to security, privacy, and compliance, they need to be reassured. They need to understand that we are doing the things that we say we are doing. We're doing the right things in managing their data. So through it's worth repeating to our customers, to our and partners, and everybody that are hosting their data in our service, that it is their data, it is your data, it is the customers that own it and control it, and we just run the service for them, and we are accountable to them. By that, these are not just words that we say. We actually codify these things in our contracts. When we sign the contracts with our customers, we declare that we are the data custodians or data processors, and the customers are the data owners ultimately. And through these lens, we look at security, privacy, and compliance. And underlying all of these is transparency of service operation. So with that as the overview, let's dig into these aspects. I'll focus a lot more time on security simply because it's the higher order item. We can talk. I'll talk a little bit about compliance as well and privacy. So when we talk about security, what we mean by built-in security is we believe philosophically that most of the critical functionality when it comes to security should be built by us. We try not to send our customers to go to somebody else to get these security solutions. We try to build in most of these things. Having said that, there are some things that we have to make extensible so that they can go use their partners, and we're working on that as well. So there are two equal and important dimensions to built-in security. The first dimension is service level capabilities, and the second is customer controls, and they're both equally important. When we say service level capabilities, we are managing the service. We are hosting customers' data in our service. So everything that is in our control, we do to maintain the security of the data. We do things like penetration testing. We do things like encryption of data in our data centers, encryption in transit. We have access control mechanisms to make sure who has access to the data. We have strong authentication to make sure people have have more than one authentication mechanism to get into the data or get into the data center itself. On the flip side, we also give, even though this is a service that is run by us, we try to make it customizable for the customers so that they can set up their own controls. They can use these as the knobs, if you will, to tune up or tune down the security levels within their organization. So we have things like rights management services, which is very unique that none of our competitors have. Or we have data loss prevention and e-discovery and things like that built into the service. So these are the two dimensions. So let me, this is just a setup slide to, we all know about the security landscape. There are a lot of, there are a lot of cyber threats out there. We've seen in the news recently about Sony and about Walmart and Target and a number of these things. So how do we make sense of all of these things? So generally, if we can look at the security landscape, to make sense of all of this, we can bucket them under three different threats. One is an outsider threat. an insider threat, and the end user himself. When we say outsider, this could be a malicious actor that is just, like a lone wolf that is out there in his or her garage trying to hack into the systems, or a nation-state actor. We've heard of Syrian Electronic Army and things like that that hacked into New York Times. So that could be an outsider actor, or an insider actor, a rogue insider that turns an insider that turns rogue, and a disgruntled employee or somebody who just wants to do something bad that turns rogue. That's an insider threat, or an outsider can pose as an insider. And thirdly, the end user himself. And when we say end user, these are the users within the customer that may be inadvertently, without knowing, they may be sharing information that is sensitive, or they may be maliciously sharing sensitive information. So we do look at all of these aspects and make sure we have enough controls to work on. And on the right-hand side, I have some high-level idea of what we do, and I'll dig into it in more detail in the future slides. So when it comes to service level capabilities, I talked about two dimensions. The first dimension, service level capabilities, we have what we call a defense in depth approach, and this is industry-wide term that is used. So basically, what it is, what it means is that not any one mechanism or not any one technique in itself is enough, or is something that we rely on to prevent any security threats to our data. But it is when we put together all of these things, this layered security is what makes customer data secure. We have defense mechanisms all the way from physical security, things like who has access to the data centers or where the data centers are located, all the way to the bits and bytes, the data itself that is actually stored or transmitted between servers, between data centers within our service. So now, and then most of these security practices that we have in defense in depth is independently verified to meet key standards. It's not just Microsoft saying all of these things, so this is great and your data is secure, but it's also these third-party organizations. We have auditors like Deloitte, BSI, and a few other auditors that actually come and audit our service to make sure we meet security standards like ISO 27001, SOC 1, SOC 2, etc. And we meet the highest standards of U.S. government, FISMA, FedRAMP standards for security. So we can talk about that a little bit more in the later slides. So with that, I'll dig into each one of these, briefly to talk about some of these layers that are more important than others. So physical security, this is an important one to mention because this is where we house the data centers are where we house our, servers, obviously, and the storage units that host customer data. So we have data centers globally. We have it in most of the regions in the world, and we're continuously expanding to go closer to where the customers are. And these data centers are located in nondescript buildings. It's not easy to make out that this is an Office 365 data center or what have you. And Microsoft owns, not sure if you're aware, we host over 200 online services today. And if you enter any of these data centers, you would not know, which service or what data or what customer data is running on any of these servers. All you would see is containers and containers of thousands and hundreds of thousands of servers that with blinking lights. So there is a layer of abstraction, if you will. And of course, we have fire suppression, seismic bracing and things of that nature. And every employee that actually enters these data centers to do some hardware maintenance or what have you, they are thoroughly vetted. They have multi-factor authentication. We have biometric verification and things of that nature. Now, contrast this with how customers may be managing their own data centers, their own on-premises data centers. An IT administrator may know exactly what sort of data or what sort of service would be hosted in what server and things of that nature. So they don't have the same level of, abstraction, if you will. And one other thing worth mentioning in this slide is the employees that have physical access to these data centers have no have no logical access to the data or the service itself. And vice versa, employees that have logical access to the data centers that can actually log into the service and do troubleshooting or what have you. They don't have physical access to the data centers. They can't get into a data center and figure out what server or service is running on. So that is that layer of role separation as well. Next is network security, and there is a lot that goes into network security, obviously. But one thing that I would like to mention on this slide is we have the concept of breach boundaries, where we separate the back-end storage units and servers that actually run some of the more intense parts of the service from the front-end parts of the service that actually serve up portals to the customers or front-end interfaces to the customers. The concept is if ever one part of the network should, God forbid, be breached or what have you, we have sufficient isolation so that we can protect other parts of the network. And this is also part of the defense, defense in depth layers. The next, of course, we have router ACLs and things like that to protect at the network layer. The next is host and the application layer. When we mean host, the actual machine, the servers that actually run the CPUs and things of that nature that actually run these services and store the data, right? At that layer, we have automated mechanisms to make sure that every server is patched. There is sufficient malware protection on each of these servers and things of that nature. We also have the concept of whitelisted processes, where we only allow certain number of certain kinds of processes that run on these servers. Every piece of software that is developed for Office 365 goes through the security development lifecycle. If you're not aware of security development lifecycle, you can go read all about it under Microsoft.com/TWC. I think it is under, and you can search for SDL. And Microsoft actually wrote the book on this, how to develop software securely, right from the beginning. We have automated tooling for routine activities. For example, for patch deployment or checking some processes on the servers. We don't have humans logging into these servers. We have automated ways to do these things. So generally, whenever the more you involve humans, there is room for error. So we try to eliminate that with automated processes. We have zero standing permissions, and I'll talk about that. And that's a really cool concept that we have in the service that is very hard to replicate in an on-premises deployment. And we have auditing of all operator actions, access and actions. So the next I'll talk about is the administrators. This is a very important concept, because this is where customers have a hard time grappling who has access to my data in the service. The moment they leave the data from their control onto our service, they want to know who has access to the service. So when we talk about the Microsoft administrators, the personnel that actually have access to the service, whether it's folks here sitting in Redmond, the people the program managers and the developers that actually work on the service, or the escalation support engineers they go through yearly background checks and screening to make sure we don't have any questionable characters in there. We have automated account management processes where if the person that has access to the service leaves the group or leaves the company, the systems are hooked up to the HR system, so their accounts are automatically deleted. We have the concept of unique accounts for each of these administrator personnel. For example, we don't have things like generic administrator account or local administrator account on some of these servers. Or root account, root access to some of these servers. We have unique accounts, so we know who is actually logging into these servers. And we have zero access privileges, which I'll get to in the next slide. And I already mentioned about security development lifecycle. One thing worth mentioning is each of these engineers that are working on the service, they go through annual training on what to do and what not to do when they're designing and managing the service. This is a really cool concept that we have. We call it internally. We call it the lockbox. So basically what it is it's a just-in-time access mechanism that we have for Microsoft administrators that are logging into the service. So basically you have the administrators that are already background checked and screened to make sure they are the right administrators that should have access to the service are the ones that are able to access the service. So let's talk about the kind of access they have to the service. First of all, they have zero standing privileges. By that what we mean is when the service is running properly, these people don't have access to the service. They don't have a need. They don't have access to the service. They can't just log into the service. They have, if there is a reason, let's say a customer opens a ticket, a service ticket, which needs which has sufficient escalation and a service engineer needs to log into the service to troubleshoot, then they have to request access with a reason, which is and the approval to this request is granted by another person, his manager or his skip level manager or someone like that, just to make sure there are enough checks and balances. And that person checks if this is a legitimate request, this person has the reason to log into the service. And once they give the approval, the kind of access this engineer gets into the service is what we call the just-in-time access. Basically, they get a just-in-time account created. They're not logging in using their own account, but they get a just-in-time account with a crazy 26-character password, which is a one-time use password. And with that, they can log into the service, and the kind of access they get is also temporal in nature. They only get a 4-hour default access to the service. They can go troubleshoot whatever it is that they're trying to do, and if they're not able to finish their task within 4 hours, they have to go back through the process all over again, right? If they have, and the kind of access that they get is, for example, if they're working on an Exchange problem, they only get access to the Exchange servers to work on that problem. They don't have lateral privileges to SharePoint servers or linked servers, if you will, right? So they have the access is very, very strictly controlled, and everything that they do on the servers, on the services, is actually audited, and that audit trail is reviewed monthly by our execs. And there are two reasons why we review these actions. One, to see what kind of actions require humans to actually log into the service, so we can keep reducing those to make it to bring it to a minimal set of actions. And secondly, to have an oversight, so an additional oversight, so that people don't use this frivolously. So this is the unique process that we have, and we are very proud of this. We have actually created 5-minute videos about this that I'll point to at a later point. So the next layer, the most like sacrosanct layer for us is the data. Obviously, the bits and bytes that we store on the servers, or we transmit between the servers or data centers or what have you. So when it comes to this, Office 365 is a multi-tenant service. We host hundreds of thousands of customers in our service. So we have the concept of customer data isolation. We also have the concept of data encryption and operational best practices, and I'll get to that. When it comes to customer data isolation, customers often wonder, like, you have me and 10 other of my competitors in your service. How are you managing so that there is no leakage between different tenants? It's suffice to say we have enough controls in our service to make sure that will never happen. We have, first of all, every tenant in the service is uniquely identified by what we call an organizational ID, which is a crazy 32-character unique ID that is assigned to one particular tenant. So you cannot have more than one organization ID apply to more than one tenant. So that atomically, that's what separates a tenant from the other tenants. Of course, we have other things like we do continuous testing, red team, blue team testing, and things of that nature to make sure there is no data spillage between tenants, or there is no malicious access from one tenant to another. Then we have obviously encryption. How do we protect the data itself? Again, one thing to mention, as important as encryption is, that by itself is not enough of a defense to protect customers' data. It is all of these layers that protect the customer's data. But it does suffice to say we have enough, we have very good encryption mechanisms in Office 365. We protect customers' data in transit. Every communication that comes from the client to the servers is over secure tunnels. We use SSL and TLS encryption to tunnels to protect customers' data in transit. We're also increasing the level of protection there in transit to we call perfect forward secrecy, 2048-bit encryption. We also have data center to data center encryption. When the data travels between data centers, we have to encryption in transit. Secondly, data at rest. When the data is in our data centers, how do we protect? We have two levels of protection here. We have what is called a BitLocker disk encryption. Basically, you may be familiar with BitLocker encryption on your desktops. We have similar encryption on all of our servers, so that the bits and bytes are protected on the server. So if somebody is able to steal the disk, as unlikely as that is, out of a data center, they're not able to decipher what's on those disks, or if a disk is recycled improperly or what have you. We have enough mechanisms to protect the data itself on these disks. Secondly, we have a unique encryption called per file encryption for customer content for SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business, where we expect customers to store some of their all of their documents, and including some of their sensitive content. And that is a unique way we protect the data. I think I have a slide on it, and this is an animated slide, so bear with me as it renders on link. Let me get a drink of water here. So with the per file encryption, it's worth mentioning that this goes beyond BitLocker. BitLocker protects the bits and bytes at the disk level, but the per file encryption encrypts at the file level or at the content level. So basically, every file that is uploaded to SharePoint Online or OneDrive for Business will be encrypted with its own unique key. If there are larger files, they will be broken up into chunks, and each of those chunks will be encrypted with their own unique keys. And all of these files, these uniquely encrypted files, are stored in separate Azure containers. The containers that you see on the right-hand side, the ABCD, they're Azure containers. They're separate Azure containers, and all of these files are stored there with their own unique keys. And we take all of these unique keys of these files and put them in a key store. So, and we store them in a key store and further encrypt it with another master key. Right? Bear with me as it renders. So further encrypt it with a master key. So basically, what you have is the files are stored in separate Azure containers. The unique keys are stored in a separate content database, and that itself is encrypted with a master key, and we store that master key in a separate secure location. So what this does is this vastly reduces the attack surface, if you will. So if somebody is able to get a hold of the master key, they don't have mapping to the individual keys, so they don't know, they can't make anything out of it. If they get access to the individual keys, they can't decrypt it because it's encrypted with a master key. Or if they get a hold of the files, it makes no sense. Further, they may have no idea where these files are located in the Azure containers. And all of these different systems, for example, Azure containers, the key store, and things of that nature, have separate different administrators. So there's no, there's very, very, minimized threat of insiders turning rogue. So this is a unique way of encrypting the data, and this resonates really well with our customers because we're going far beyond what they expect us to do. And imagine this can, doing something like this in an on-premises deployment. It is, we're confident to say it's pretty much next to impossible to do this because we have the vast scale. We operate at vast scale. We have access to Azure storage containers and hundreds of thousands of SharePoint servers and things of that nature. We can we can do things like this to protect customer data. So moving on. Lastly, it's worth mentioning, and this is a very important concept. So everything that I mentioned so far in my presentation is about preventing malicious access or preventing customer data, threats to customer data and things of that nature. All comes under prevent breach approach. So a few years ago, we went through a mindset shift where we realized that we can have all kinds of defense mechanisms that we want, but we cannot convince our customers, or we cannot make sure that we have a way to prevent all kinds of threats. So we came up with this concept of assume breach, where we actually assume that there is there may be a breach, there is going to be a breach. So how do we protect customers' data? So we have two teams within our engineering team called the red team and the blue team. They sit with our Office 365 engineering team, and the red team is think of them as a team of white hat hackers. So their job is to come to work every day to make sure that to come to work every day to do penetration testing against Office 365 to ensure that the customers are to ensure that Office 365 is hardened enough so that they're not able to breach. So the blue team's job is to hunt them down and try to prevent them from getting access to canonical customer data. So this is the cat and mouse game that they play every day to make sure that we're not we don't have any blind spots with our prevent breach mechanisms. So again, on this important concept as well, we created a timeline, and I will give you I'll share those resources so you can have a look at it. So those are all the things that we have at the service level, our service level capabilities. So the next important concept is customer controls. And here's where we're making, a lot of innovation also to make sure that, the customers have enough controls within their tenant to protect their data. Basically we look at this as, in three vectors, protecting customer data in three vectors. The first one is the user. The middle layer is the devices, and the last layer is the data itself. So the users, think of that as users accessing the service from various applications and various parts of the world, whether inside the corporate network or outside, etc. So there we have that's where we have different identity options that the customers can use. They can use federation and things of that nature. And the middle layer is the devices. Customers are accessing the service using various devices. How do we protect those devices? There's data downloaded on devices. What are we doing there? And the third layer is the data itself. When the data is in Office 365 that the customers have access to. This is not the service service administrators having access, but the customers have access to. How do they make sure they have appropriate mechanisms to protect their data? So the first part is the identity and access management. Basically, we have federation, secure password synchronization, multi-factor authentication, etc., to protect the users accessing the service. So basically, federation is obviously some of you may know already, where you use a secure token system to ensure that you're not passing around passwords from a customer's environment to Office 365. So basically, you have an STS, whether it's an ADFS or a third-party secure token system that generates SAML tokens that are used for authentication and authorization to give users access to the service. Secondly, if the customers do not want to use federation, they can use secure password synchronization, where we actually one-way hash the password, so the password is not readable when it sits in the service. And thirdly, on top of this, we have multi-factor authentication. In the federation mode, we can support third-party multi-factor authentication providers like RSA Security and things, or even our own phone factor solution. We also have multi-factor authentication built into the service, so you can use mobile phones or mobile apps to actually generate random random second factor IDs to log into the service. So that's about protecting the user's access itself. When it comes to device management, here's where we are making a lot of progress. We actually announced at Tech Europe that we're going to have mobile, MDM for Office 365 released in the first quarter of this calendar year. Let's talk about what we have in this domain. We have obviously we have device wipe. You can entirely wipe out the device in case this serves the scenario where a customer is using an iPad or a mobile device where they have sensitive data and they lost it in an airport or something like that. You can actually wipe out the entire device. Then we have selective wipe, where they have in the with the consumerization of IT, people are bringing their own devices into the corporate environment. So they may have sensitive data corporate data stored on their environment. How do we make sure only that data is eliminated while we keep their personal data intact if they leave the corporation or what have you? That is covered by selective wipe, and then we have the concept of what we call the walled garden, and we'll talk about that. That's about mobile application management. So basically, with mobile device management, we have conditional access where customers can actually provide, when a device is newly enrolled, they can provide conditional access to that device. Secondly, they can also do device management, as I mentioned, device wipe and selective wipe and things of that nature. And thirdly, the very important, interesting aspect of this is with Microsoft Intune, you can do, advanced application management. This is what I referred to as walled garden in the previous slide. So basically, what this allows you to do is prevent users from copying sensitive data from corporate applications to their personal applications. Think of it as, if you're a financial organization and people are looking at credit card information or some sensitive financial data, or if you're a pharmaceutical, you're looking at some sensitive formularies and things of that nature. So this prevents anybody from copying that kind of data and pasting it into a personal email or Twitter and things of that nature. It just doesn't allow it, while it allows you to do those operations within your sanctioned corporate applications, if you will. And lastly, that's more about mobile device management. And lastly, protecting the data itself that the customers have access to within the Office 365 service. In this realm, we have encryption, data loss prevention, and of course the things that you're familiar with, like anti-spam and antivirus. When it comes to encryption, this is different from the encryption that I talked about early on, which is the encrypting the data itself in the data center. This encryption is at the hands, at the hands of the customers. These are the users. They can use these encryption mechanisms as they feel the need to protect their sensitive data. In this area, we have rights management service, which is basically a 128-bit encryption that you can encrypt data. And not only encrypt data, you can apply intelligent policies like, assign the kind of people that have access to the access to this particular data, how it can be, with who it can be shared, and what kind of permissions you give the users to do, like copy, print, or prevent them from forwarding emails, etc. So this will protect your corporate data environment. And then we have tried and tested S-MIME encryption, that customers can maintain their own key and encrypt emails with S-MIME. Thirdly, we have Office 365 message encryption, which is basically protecting emails to consumers. This is a B2C environment, and I'll talk more about that. And then we have, of course, lastly, transport layer security. So this is more about rights management. I can't say enough about this feature. We have had this for a while now, but the cool thing we've done with Office 365 is in under 5 clicks and about 20 seconds, you can assign RMS to an entire organization within Office 365. Contrast this with how we used to do ADRMS in the on-premises environment. We made it super easy to use rights management service. Further, rights management gives gives customers protection at the information layer, so the protection travels with the files, wherever the files may go. Next is data loss prevention. This is another important feature where we are making significant advances. You may be familiar with this, where you can actually prevent sensitive content from leaving the organization or warning the users that they're sending sensitive content. I wish I had time to do a quick demo, but basically you can protect, things like credit card information or sensitive information leaving the organization by doing where we do deep content analysis on that content. And if a customer has identified that as sensitive content, we can either block it or we can warn the user that this is sensitive content, they cannot send it. Right. Secondly, one other thing that we added last year was we added something called document fingerprinting. So basically, not only can you protect strings of text, you can also fingerprint a document. The example that I give here is, let's say you're a tax organization and you want to fingerprint a 1040 document, and then say anything that looks like this document, warn the user that they're sending sensitive information outside their organization. So what we do is we create a fingerprint based on that document, and you can even assign confidence levels as to to what level the document that the user may be sending matches the fingerprinted document, and then that will prevent sensitive documents leaving the organization. This resonates really well with customers in the healthcare industry or pharmaceutical industry, where they share where there may be sensitive formularies and in patented information that they don't want to send out, they don't want to leave the organization, right? Finally, we are adding data loss prevention capabilities to SharePoint as well. It's there in email. We've taken some baby steps towards it, where we have document classification today, but this year we're going to add DLP to SharePoint. So think about when you're adding a file to OneDrive or SharePoint, immediately you get a policy tip saying this is sensitive content. Either warn or prevent the user from uploading and things of that nature. Or further, once you've uploaded, you can even give you policy tips when the users are sharing data within OneDrive or SharePoint Online. That's about document fingerprinting that I already covered. And of course, finally, email archiving and retention. We have these kinds of policies that are already implemented in email for a while now, so I won't belabor too much time on it, or on anti-spam and antivirus, where we have enough protections there. So I want to be conscious of my time. We're at 15 minutes, and I want to leave about 5 to 7 minutes for question and answers. So the important thing that I want to cover is a little bit about compliance and privacy. So when it comes to compliance is the flip side of security. A lot of customers that care about security care about compliance, because this is the way to independently verify what we say we do. And of course, customers in regulatory industries have to comply with certain standards. So even in compliance, we look at this in 2 dimensions: service capabilities and customer controls. Service capabilities include global compliance, like standards and certifications that we have that we meet in our service. So here's a list of all of the certifications, not all, but a small list of the certifications that we already meet. There's a more exhaustive list. You can go to the Trust Center and check out more information about these things. But the ones that I would like to call out here are the security standards like ISO 27001, which is hugely important for international customers. We recently recertified for ISO 27001 2013, and on top of that, we added ISO 27018, which is a privacy standard as part of ISO 27001. We also, Office 365 is one of the first major services, along with Azure and CRM, to achieve Article 29 Working Party approval. Basically, what they see that is European data processing authorities saying that Office 365 does meet the contractual obligations that European Union requires in terms of privacy. And we recently met too, which is also hugely important in financial services sector as an important standard for security and availability and things like that. So what's the more important story is how Office 365 meets these compliance standards. Of course, we do the certifications that the customers go check out and look at it. But if you talk to the CSOs or compliance officers within the customer, they're very interested to know or very curious to know how we meet these certifications. So it's not just a checkbox, right? We have our compliance team that sits within our engineering team to make sure that some of these compliance controls are built into the service. Right from ground up. So basically what this means is we have, we boil down all of the requirements, compliance requirements into what we call control sets. We have things like access control sets. For example, access control sets may have all of the different access control mechanisms we have in the data center at the user level and things like that. All of that is boiled down as a requirement under this control. And anybody that is familiar with compliance understands this language of control sets. So these control requirements are then checked against the product to make sure we meet. If it doesn't meet, they're fed as a requirement into the product team. So we build that requirement. And through maintaining this holistic base level set of control sets, we meet various levels of certifications. Now, what does this mean? Let's say there is a new regulation or a new standard that comes up and Office 365 has to meet it. Basically, we boil it down to the control sets, and we have to just go after the small delta that there may be, or they may or may not be, to make sure we meet that compliance certification. And this, like I said, this resonates really well with compliance officers and security officers. Lastly, and a very important concept is privacy. Privacy is something we take very seriously. We make a commitment that we don't, a customer is not our product. We don't do advertising using any of the customer information. We don't do data mining to do advertising. We try to, we want to be very transparent with our customers about where the geographical location of data is. If you go on the, Trust Center, trust.office365.com, you can find what are called data maps that show you, where the customer's data is held, for that particular region and things like that. We also give customer notification about the changes we make to security, privacy, and audit information. We also have privacy controls that are built into the product. Every feature that we build, we go through a privacy review to make sure that it doesn't impact customers' privacy. And if it does, we make sure we build appropriate controls so that customers can turn them off. Very important topic, on government snooping. There has been a lot of, hints and innuendos in the last couple of years. But to be clear, we don't provide any government with direct or unfettered access to their data. So this is something that customers are worried about when we come up with, when we talk to them about the cloud. We don't assist any government efforts to break into our encryption. We don't build any backdoors into our service. So we're not involved in any surveillance program. So these are all rumors and innuendos. So we don't get involved in any of these things. So I have a couple more slides about how we respond to data requests and things like that. We also publish transparency reports, every 6 months. To make sure that the customers see what kind of requests, how many requests we are getting from in terms of national security and things like that. And we're leading. You must have read it in the news. Microsoft is at the forefront of all of the tech companies, leading the fight to with the government to make sure we have appropriate, privacy, policies in place that we can meet. Anyway, I have a few more material that if you're interested to go through that. So that's about what I wanted to go through today in terms of security, compliance, and privacy. But I did want to point you to some resources here. There is a great resource called Trust Center, trust.office365.com, where we try to be transparent about about everything that we do in the service. We have deeper level documents like white papers and FAQs and things like that. And we also have a number of videos on various topics that we worked on with engineers. It's called From Inside the Cloud series, where we have Rajesh Jha, who leads the Office 365 team, talking about why customers should trust Office 365. Vivek Sharma, who leads the security team, talking about how we think your data is at rest and things of that nature. So I have the URLs here. I would urge you to go have a look for a deeper dive into and hear it from the folks that have built the service, right? And we also have a Windows app if you want to download some of these videos and watch them when you're on the go. So that's my presentation. I went through it as fast as I could, so I would allow a few minutes for Q&A. And if there are questions, after this presentation, we will try to reply to them offline. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Vijay. Michael, are you there? Actually, folks, before you go ahead and we go into any Q&A, if we do have the time, I want to call your attention to a link to a short survey that I've placed in the conversation window. We appreciate you taking a moment to fill it out prior to logging out. You'll need to enter your email address to access the survey questions. When you're in there, our voting scale is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. So if you got some great information today from Vijay, or if you have some more questions, please feel free to submit to ask those. And then be sure to click on the submit button at the bottom to ensure that your feedback has been received. And with that, Vijay or Michael, I will turn it back to you guys. Vijay, do you want to go back up through the conversation window and see if you can answer any of the questions out loud?
Yeah, I think there's a question. Yeah, I'll take a couple of questions at the end. It's hard to keep scrolling. So,
sure. Or Michael, what about you? Any updates?
So there is a question on this queue about MDM. So the idea is we have something called MDM in Office 365, where we will have device wipe and selective wipe and some of that functionality that will be built into the Office 365 service at E3 SKU. And then on top of that, there is additional mobile application management capabilities that will be part of the customers would have to get Intune to take advantage of some of the advanced features. So we will share more about the plans. I think the blog post that we put out at TechEd Europe covers a lot of covers some SKU questions as well. If not, feel free to reach out to me. I'll route your question to the appropriate SME so we can get that answered. There was another question about does the does the Office 365 email encryption require user at the other end to be running Office 365? So basically, it depends on obviously what we're talking about, which type of service we're talking about. There is one called Office 365 message encryption that I briefly touched on. Basically, what that is it's taking it's like what we used to have. We used to have something called exchange hosted encryption. You may be familiar with some of the banks that use a similar functionality where you get an email saying you have an encrypted message and you click on it and you have to verify your credentials and you can see the message. It's something like that. Basically, the base the requirement for this is the user on the other end should have a Windows Live account or a Microsoft account, which is a pretty low bar. It's a free account. I mean, they can sign up for Outlook.com and they can get the encrypted email from that point on.
There was another question earlier, BJ, that was asking you just to kind of define what logical access meant, like on-site or logical. You used that term a couple of times earlier in the presentation.
So if let me try to paraphrase that question, and hopefully that is the right question. So basically, when we say logical access, think of think of it. We have something called, I didn't have time to talk about it. This topic is so deep. We have a model called DevOps model for support and troubleshooting purposes. For example, if there is a customer issue and customer raises a ticket that gets escalated all the way, and we have the actual developers and program managers that worked on that feature that will actually log into the service and troubleshoot because they wrote the code. It's faster and easier for them to fix these issues, so they're on call as well. So basically, these are the types of folks that need logical access to the service rather than physical access. I think that's what the question was about. Physical access. When we talk about physical access, the folks that are actually in the data center that have access to the service. Servers. Sorry. So is rights management service native to exclusive to Office 365 without the need for ADFS, etc.? The answer is yes. It is. If you have E3 SKU, you can just go into Office 365 admin portal, and it's under service settings. You can go in there and actually just with a click of a button, you can activate rights management service for your entire organization in Office 365. You don't need ADFS or anything like that to enable rights management service in the service rights management service in Office 365.
All right, a couple more minutes there, Vijay. So maybe a last question or two.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through. Yes, we will make this deck available. And one thing that I wanted to mention that I don't have a slide on is if there are any ISV partners, we are working on a program to talk to ISVs to extend some of the Office 365 capabilities, so that they can build their own interesting security solutions like anomaly detection and things of that nature. So if there are ISVs that are interested, they can reach out to me and we can have a dialogue about it. Okay. So I don't see any other questions that we need to take here, Debbie.
Okay. Vijay, do you or Michael have any final words for our audience then before we wrap up?
No, my only thing is this is what we tell our sales and field as well. We just we have a very strong security and compliance story, and this is a journey we're continuing to make significant advances, and you'll see throughout the year we'll make many more technological advances in this space. So we need to lead with this, and we need to make customers comfortable. And most of the time when we land, when we have this conversation about the topic, barring one or two specific questions in specific areas, customers feel pretty comfortable that we do things that they cannot imagine doing. So
excellent. Michael, anything from you before we wrap up here?
No, just thank you to Vijay for some great information, which is just really important baseline and foundation to selling any Office 365 engagement. So I just want to thank him again for his time today.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Vijay, as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I would like to remind you to take our post-event survey. Again, I've posted it here in the conversation pane again. That really helps us define our calls and provide you a better event. So if you could do that survey, that would be awesome. And with that does conclude today's Partner Infopedia web conference. Again, the recording will be available on Infopedia and worldwide events within 24 hours. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our host, Michael, and our presenter, Vijay. And thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.